Yeah. Again, thank you, Keshi Abiselom. Just to give you a synopsis without going into too much detail, I'll avoid that.
Hmm.
There's a lot to say. The reason why is growing up here in North America, and I know and I'm sure a lot of young people could relate. There's a side that, especially the older generation, don't see. I mean, there's struggles everywhere you go, and without expounding too much, I'll share a few bits here and there about the way I grew up and my childhood. I would say, glory be to God. Glory be to God. Thanks to God. And my parents, Xavier Miskan, it was good. Growing up was good. Outside the home, however, it was challenging due to my environment, because of where I was raised, the surrounding of my environment. At home, it was good, Xavier Miskan, because of my parents. But outside was a different story. And the reason why I say that is growing up in an environment of violence, where there's consistent violence and gangs and crime. So that made it a little bit challenging.
Oh, oh, okay. Where's that place, if you don't mind? Is it you grew up in Canada, right?
Yes, that is correct. Yes, that is correct. I was raised, and what I was just mentioning moments ago is I was raised and lived most of my life in Toronto, but I was raised as a young man in North York, Toronto,
Mhm.
in an area. It's an infamous area known as the Jane and Finch area. For
Mhm.
many years, it was like the Compton of Canada, basically.
Mhm.
Uh, Everybody that lives in Toronto knows about Jane and Finch. You mentioned Jane and Finch, you're like, oh my gosh, Jane and Finch is a bad area. I don't want to go there. So, what I'm sharing with you is my experience back in the day, like in the 90s, late 80s. I went to elementary school there, middle school there, even my first year of high school. So being raised in that environment, like I said, at home, Xavier Miskan, thanks to my parents, a lot of good things I learned at home, and I believe that's what helped me. But outside was a different ball game. Being raised in that environment, it wasn't easy, especially being a young man, a young lad and a teenager, and it wasn't easy. Where you're consistently seeing violence, and you're surrounded by gang members and crime. So it was difficult. There was challenges. There was fetana. But I would say Xavier Miskin, thanks to what I was taught at home, the foundation at home, Xavier Miskin. Till this day, I'm thankful to my parents, what they instilled in me, and what they taught me. Especially the moms. You know how the moms are. The moms are amazing.
Oh yeah.
I think my mom, like my dad, is amazing too, but my mom, oh my gosh, you know how moms, they grind you,
Oh yeah.
and I didn't understand when I was young. I remember my mom would have a lot of conversations with us, like me, and my siblings. I was the oldest, and she would share a lot of of her past experiences, stories of back home, how she was raised, how our culture is, what kind of people we are. And to be honest with you, from the bottom of my heart, I didn't understand then. There was times when I used to think to myself, "Oh my gosh, mom, seriously, like again, right?" And she's like, in our language, she'd be like, "Atas level, guys, right?" You know how the moms are. So I was like, is she haray mama? Okay, okay, fine. So I would just, show her complete respect. And
Mhm.
like I said, my dad was a cool guy, but he was more of like, your education, تمرتكم نفع لكم, right? That was his main
The
main preaching all
which
the
I
time.
said. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. But my mom, oh my gosh, she's like, she taught us almost everything, like
Yes.
the culture, the language, bahli, what kind of people we are, and like for me, my siblings, none of us are born back home. We're all born or raised in the diaspora, and because of my mom's teaching, and she would teach us consistently about our Haymanot. Tohado Orthodox Haymanot was number one to her. She would
Mm.
teach us the basic things that she knew about the faith, about the Ten Commandments. I remember as a young man, she talked a lot about the Ten Commandments. So she would, indicate each one of them and expound on them. Thou shalt not steal, honor your parents. And she would give examples of,
Mm.
back home, of those who did not honor their parents, what would happen to them. And we were fascinated, me and my siblings. And what's interesting is all these things that I'm mentioning, she would teach us not in English. Not once did my mom use English. It was always Tigrinya, always Tigrinya. And that really helped. And I think that's one of the reasons why me and my siblings, like I said, none of us are born back home or raised back home. But every each one of us speak Tigrinya, where we know our culture, and we know our faith, thanks to my parents, but I would say specifically more because of my mom. And that really helped me, though, growing up in that environment. To be honest with you, that really did help me, because a lot of things that my mom was telling me, even when I was hanging around with my friends, you get influenced as a teenager. And where you have your parents teaching you one thing, and then you go outside of your home, and then your environment is teaching you something else. Because here in the West, the culture is different from the Habesha culture, of course.
Mm,
So there's a conflict there, right? There's a conflict. You have your parents telling you one thing, they're telling you this is our culture, zi bahlina, zi haymanotna, this is our faith. And then outside, when I say outside, I'm not only talking about the environment where I was raised in, but also the media, social media, and the whole nine yard. So, like I said, the foundation home was awesome. That really helped. And hang around with my friends. Sometimes I was, they tried to influence me. Yes, I'm not saying I was a perfect young man. You make mistakes as a teenager. Xavier Misken, thank God, it was like major mistakes.
mhm.
And but one of the things that was always embedded in my mind was, what my mom taught me. And to be honest with you, like I knew a lot of hardcore, to be honest with you, hardcore gangsters, gang leaders, drug dealers. They used to go to class with me. And to be honest with you, like I was even invited to join them. But one of the things that I was always thinking is, I know this is kind of funny when I think about it and now, but I wasn't even afraid of any gangster. If you asked me who I was afraid of, it was my parents. I was like, they're gonna kill me. So I had to always think about, okay, the discipline. My era, it was the era of mojos, of
Yeah, I know.
shevet, of golfi. So, we really got it, with the slippers, the belt, we really got it.
I think a lot
And
of people
so I
can
was like
relate
more
to
afraid of, yeah, yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I was more afraid of my parents than my environment, like,
that.
don't get me wrong, the environment was very scary, but I would always think in the back of my mind, okay, if I follow these guys and do something bad and I get caught, if the police catch me,
Yeah.
mayday, that's it, I'm dead. I'm dead. I feared my dad, I feared my mom. And like I said, there's a slipper, there's a mojas,
There's a
and sometimes,
chemical.
yeah. And you know what's really funny too? Sometimes when I think about it, is those days, and I'm not speaking about now, I'm talking about my generation, they would even just use the mohos for no reason. You're like, what did I do? They're
That's
like,
all.
so that Afghans, right? So, that's how we
Yeah.
grew up, but Xavier Miskan.
I
Xavier
think
Miskan.
I can. We can clearly see that from how you speak Tigrinya well. You love your culture, you love your church, and that says a lot about your parents. And glory be to God. You mentioned how rough the area that you grew up with. How's that impacted you? Your youth time. How's that impacted you?
How did that impact me? Just to be clear, my beloved father, are you saying like in that time when I was young, how it
Yeah, yeah,
impacted
when
me?
you were younger. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good question. It did impact me in some ways, and like I said before, when you're a teenager, when you're young, you're swayed. You're swayed sometimes. You want to do cool things, and your friends, they try to persuade you to join, like, let's say, a gang or a clique. And yes, it sometimes, it could be difficult, and there's that conflict. Like I said before, you're thinking about, okay, I have a culture, I have a faith, and then these guys are inviting me to do something or join, like, a clique or something. And it was challenging for me, because inside my heart I was like, okay, I love my friends, I love my boys, right, my homeboys, I really like them, and I grew up with them. We played basketball together, we played sports together, we would talk about, and in those days, I'm talking about not right now, but Keshi, but back in the day, it was all about hip hop. My
Yeah.
generation was about Biggie Small and,
Oh yeah.
Tupac. East and West was my high school days. We used to fight with my friends. We used to be like, I'm West Coast, I'm East Coast, like it's a shit, right?
Oh yeah.
So, when we're young, right? So it influences you, but like I said before, like, I always go back to, what my mom was teaching us. Yes, it was hard, and to be honest with you too, my beloved father Cassis, sometimes if you're raised in that kind of environment, even when you're minding your own business, there's things will affect you. Why do I say that? Like, to be honest with you, I wasn't a troublemaker. I never got in trouble with the law or anything like that. Although sometimes my friends would, try to persuade me, to do certain things. I remember when I was like middle school, and the school I attended it's called Brookview Heights. And I remember it was my first year, and one of the guys that I thought was my friend, like we just had a simple, disagreement in the hallway, and he pushed me, and I was like, please, bro, you know what? I don't want any issues. It's not a big deal. You know what? He got me mad. He pushes me again. I push him. Next thing you know, I felt something. The teacher comes by, and I was bleeding. So I noticed, like, I was like, what is happening? The teacher's like, you got stabbed. And this was like, I think around the age of 13. So this guy thought it was my friend. And he was I didn't even know at that time, but he was a gang member. So this guy stabs me with a screwdriver right here on my left side here, with a skinny screwdriver. So I was shocked. I was like, what's happening here? I thought this guy was my friend. What's going on here? And I remember he was like concerned from what I heard, because that environment is dangerous, because it's all about gangs, shooting, violence, retaliation. And he was kind of concerned because he thought I was going to retaliate. In my heart, there was no retaliation, because I grew up in an Eritrean family. That's not the kind of people we are. We're Orthodox family. My parents didn't teach me that. In my mind, I was more shocked. They took me to the hospital. Everything was well. They asked me if I was going to press charges. Yeah, I didn't press any charges. I didn't even say who did it. I kept it shut. You don't talk about those kind of things in that environment. And but I was like, that kind of hit me. That was like one of the moments in my life that hit me. I was thinking to myself, what is going on here? I thought this guy was my friend. And so that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. When you're minding your own business, like I wasn't in a gang. I was minding my own business. I was a cool guy, just wanted to have fun, a young guy. And this guy that I thought was my friend, like I said, he stabs me. And I had various other experiences, to be honest with you. And I thank God. There was 3 occasions where I almost got shot. A gun was pulled on me. And first time was when I was 13, for no reason at all. And I'm not going to go into details, talk about it, because we're going to be here for hours. But to be honest with you, it was, till this day, I thank Xavier. I thank Walarit Amlak for saving me, because the guy had a gun right on my back and he was ready to shoot. But I stood my ground. And Xavier Mescan, I left everything to God, and I survived that. Mentally, psychologically, what that does to you at a young age. And I don't think a lot of people understand that. And I know I'm going to go kind of off topic a little bit. I see a lot of youngsters nowadays, the social media, even in our society, they want to be gangsters. They want to join gangs. They feel like the ghetto is like, wow, glamorous. Let me tell you something, okay? It's not glamorous. It's not cool. It's not, it's not what the media is showing us or presenting. When you live in that environment, it's no joke. It's a different ball game. So it does affect you psychologically, emotionally. You have all these things, like thinking in your mind, like, what do I do? You're always cautioning. And being raised in that environment, it changed me. In what way? I was more vigilant, because you have to be vigilant. You could be minding your own business, going to the store, just go in the store to buy something like a drink, and somebody might start shooting, not at you, at someone else, and you might be a victim at that moment. So being raised in that environment, I would say myself and those who raised with me, my friends, were always vigilant. So we're always looking around, like, what's going to happen next. And being raised that way is not fun. I'll be honest with you, it's not fun. But going back to what I said earlier, what helped was, I believe right now, when I think about it, the prayers of my parents. My mom, she was a prayer warrior, and me also being cautious as best as I could at that time, and leaving things to God. And He did protect me, because there was many times that I could have got killed, and God did protect me. And thanks to, like I said before, what was instilled in me, though, I wasn't a troublemaker. I was always, like, in my young age, I was smart about things. I was a thinker. I would always think about things. In high school, that really helped me. And a lot of my friends, they weren't thinkers. They were just doers. They would just go by impulse. They would see someone and just go and punch them for no reason. They would just go and rob someone right in front of them, like in the hallway. And I wasn't that kind of person. I was more of a thinker. I stayed away from the crime. I stayed away from the violence. And the interesting thing is, I noticed when I was in high school, I noticed that when you conduct yourself with respect, and then you'll notice that others will show that respect to you too. And I'm speaking from my experience. So I conducted myself with respect, and I would never rat on anyone. I would respect everyone. And for some reason, people would just come and talk to me. I didn't join any gang or anything like that. People would come and talk to me, females, males, in high school, tell me their problems, and I would never divulge their secrets. People would tell me crazy things that happened in their life, like sexual abuse and other things, violence that happened in their life. And I would never, ever disrespect what they would tell me. I would keep it. I've like come to think about it right now. I was like the Dr. Phil at that time, you know. I was like, why are these people telling me these things? I'm like, why? Who am I? But I remember one of my friends said to me, you know what? A lot of people respect you around here because you know why? You don't divulge anything. You know, that's why they come to you and speak to you and talk to you. So I conducted myself with respect. And like I said, it's not because I'm special, to be honest with you. It's because one, my parents instilled in me, you know. I had to be clever to maneuver in that environment. And thank God, you know, that really helped by the grace of God. Xavier Miska.